So why are practices at Georgia so difficult? This is something that we talked about over and over and over again, and it's not just something that I'm saying. It's Davin Bellamy, Stetson Bennett, whoever, Matt Rule, Nebraska coach, George Pickens, former Steeler, now Dallas Cowboy. Everyone has talked about this from their time in the NFL, coming to visit Georgia practices, or their time in Athens and then going to the NFL to see what it's like, or in the case of some guys, transferring in, seeing what it's like different in Athens versus what it's like at, if you're, Eli Wolf, what it was like at Tennessee, or, it's a pride thing for Georgia and has been for some time. Now, this past season in 2024, perhaps the practices being so difficult maybe caught up to Georgia. I don't even know if that's the right way to put it, because this is still football. I mean, you have to tackle to the ground. You have to wrap up another man and stop him. You have to sometimes you have to shed another man to get to that person. So this is not an easy sport. It's very difficult. But why make things so difficult? Well, after games, when you ask guys, I mean, they'll chuckle a little bit because it has been their view for a long time, and they can verify this probably 10 times a year, that practices are more difficult than games. And to be honest with you, when they have very difficult games, like, for instance, the Georgia Tech game this past year, I think they are almost energized by their ability to get through games and complete them, finish them, because practices have been so hard for so long. That's the way I look at it. And, one guy who's been a lot of these practices, Gunnar Stockton, make sure you're grabbing our 2025 season preview. This just came out. It's going to mail out in about a month. So make sure that you're grabbing it. The link is on the screen in the QR code and down below. You're going to be able to pick this up at Red Zone in middle June. I think it's going to be not in time for the Super Regional that Georgia will likely host for baseball, but make sure you're picking it up. It's got Gunnar on the cover. We talk about all the games: Tennessee, the Gators, Texas, Alabama. Georgia's playing the usual slate of teams, and they'll need these practices to be physical and rough and difficult in order to get through this schedule. It's not as difficult to schedule as 2024. I'm not sure we will see a schedule more difficult than what Georgia played in 2024. I mean, to put it into perspective, Georgia was one of the college football playoff teams, one of the 12. So of the other 11 college football playoff teams, Georgia played 3 of them and beat all of them but Notre Dame. Played 4 games against the college football playoffs other 11 teams and went 3-1 in those games. So that was a tough schedule. I mean, and you could make the case, I would not. You could make the case that Alabama and Mississippi could have or should have gotten in. I'm not sure I believe that, but Georgia, what they did to Texas with a double-digit victory on their home floor. Same thing to Clemson in a neutral. Then they beat Texas again in overtime on a neutral, if you want to call Atlanta neutral in both cases. But it wasn't Sanford Stadium, and it certainly wasn't Memorial Stadium up at Clemson. So, and then they lost on a neutral to Notre Dame in a game where they just did not play well. Notre Dame played okay. I don't think Notre Dame played unbelievable in that game. They deserved to win. I don't think it was anything, unbelievable from Notre Dame. They gutted it out, and you get credit for that. I mean, it wasn't anything unbelievable when Georgia went to Texas. They completely shut Texas down defensively. But, the way that Georgia beat Texas in Austin was not dissimilar from the way that Notre Dame beat Georgia. The perhaps exception was the special teams touchdown. But, turnovers, all those things, that's what you focus on in practice, y'all. I mean, practice matters. As a former collegiate athlete, which, is a fact. It's coming on 25 years ago. But practices matter way more than the public realizes. And in your job, you can't, I don't know what your job is, but if you're watching this, you're probably not a collegiate or professional football player or a professional athlete or a collegiate athlete. Most of y'all didn't do that. But most of you have jobs. You can't just go to your job and free ball it. Like, you can't be like, oh, well, I'm just going to kind of kick it today. Not if you want to succeed. And in the increasingly analytical or analytics based, I should say, world of big college football. So Bama, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State world. That group, and if I left your favorite team out, I'm sorry. That group is the margin for winning it all is small. I mean, think about Georgia and their national championship appearances under Kirby Smart. They've played in the national championship 3 times. And in those 3 seasons, they either lost a game or narrowly won a game that was a terminal game, okay? They had to have it. They either lost what would traditionally have been a terminal game, the SEC championship game in 2021, a road game late in the season against Auburn, or the very narrow win in the Rose Bowl against Oklahoma. Again, the loss in 21 to Alabama. They also had a very tight win over Clemson. Shouldn't have been as tight as it was, but it was tight. And then in 23, Missouri, as well as the Ohio State game, which is probably the most notable, game saver of all that time. Little things add up. In 21, they don't win the national championship, not just with the Keeley interception, but with Keeley running down the tight end from Alabama. That happened in practice. That sort of stuff happens in practice right there. You can't turn it on. Like, it was like, hey man, I'm gonna be hyped for the game. No, dude, it's too late. If you're trying to get hyped for the game or whatever language or linguistics or whatever fancy word you want to use to be, quote, ready for you have to be ready starting, like, it's too late now. Like, you got to be going all the time. Everything adds up or goes against you every single day, period. And, I'm going to talk about it. I don't care. Because I know, but I spent the weekend at an AAU, what we call an AAU basketball tournament. And you're watching 8-year-olds play. And you're watching, kids that are juniors and, not seniors, but juniors and sophomores and freshmen in high school play. Those weekends, the results at that moment matter, I guess, right? But collectively, all of those dribbles, all of those shots, all of those moments with your team and your coaches, your peers, your parents, they all add up. They're like little bitty blocks of Legos when you're trying to make huge pirate ships and stuff. You need all of those little Lego pieces. And you can't just go into a Saturday in the SEC and expect for the pieces to be ready and organized and you know what you're doing without a guidebook. I mean, these practices, they all matter. They all matter. Georgia doesn't grind out Missouri at the end of 21, in 21 at the end of that game without a run game that they could depend. I said 21, I meant 22, that they could depend on. Doesn't happen. Do they win the national championship with Keeley allowing a touchdown there? Do they beat Alabama that season if they allowed more than one touchdown? I don't know. They only allowed one. Do they win the national championship if they don't beat Missouri? I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't. But they would have been 14-1. But do they have the guts you need to get past Ohio State without that Missouri experience? It's hard to explain something that is a what if, but it definitely helped them. Like, when you're on the sideline for these games and you can watch, I hear what Kirby tells these guys often. It's not for me to repeat on here, but they very rarely are freaking out. I mean, pick sixes against, like, Stetson throwing a pick six or, whatever. These guys are not panicking. I sat there and watched them as they came off the field in Atlanta in 2021 after the loss to Alabama. They were upset, but they weren't freaking out. There was maybe one or two players. That was it. And, they understood what happened. And there's not a lot of confusion when you do it, what I would say, every day. It's something that this program prides itself on. And they are physical practices. I mean, football is a collision sport. It's not contact. Basketball, that's a contact sport. Football is a collision sport. And you'd better be ready to collide, not just with reality, but with the person on the other side of the line of scrimmage that's your size, bigger or faster or stronger. All of those things. In some cases, all of those things. So that's the part for Georgia. They pride themselves on this. Does it pay off? It has under Kirby Smart. There's no doubt about that. Thanks for watching.